Good morning, sixth graders, and welcome to our last day of review before you guys are going to get to show off how amazing you've been doing in ELA on your MLQ tomorrow. So I know we've been talking a lot about objective summary. This is our last day to hammer this in, so we're going to have some quiz questions in the Educanon to see how well you do. Our objective back here is that students will be able to determine which events belong in an objective summary. So, quick reminder, objective summaries are always 3 to 5 sentences, no opinions, should not include small details. They do not require evidence from the text. So this is really the only time in ELA where you'll ever be asked to do something and be told that you don't have to support your answer with evidence, okay? You're just giving in your own words what happened. And then it must include all major events. This is tricky. We've been talking about the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, how. It doesn't always have to have all of those. So for example, when we wrote objective summaries about chapter 1, you didn't have to put in when, because chapter 1 didn't really tell us when the story was taking place yet. So use those as a guide to make sure you're getting in all important stuff, because 5 W's usually cover pretty important things, but it doesn't mean it has to be there. So real quickly, an objective summary versus a central idea. What they both do is they talk about the major ideas and only important events in what you just read. But the big difference is, so here are some uses for central idea. First is to annotate a text. So every paragraph or every few paragraphs, stop and jot down the central idea of what you just read. 2 really important reasons to do this are so that you don't zone out while reading. Do you ever read something through and then think, wait, what did I just read? I have to go back now a few paragraphs and reread that, because we kind of zone out. And also, it's easier to go back to the text and answer questions about that text. So if you're asked a question about a certain part, instead of going back and trying to find in the story, oh, where did this happen? Where did this happen? You can look at your little central idea stop and jots every paragraph or every few paragraphs to reference what happened. So if you take a look at this one right here, here's an example of what a stop and jot should look like. It'll be in your own penmanship. Usually start them off by saying this paragraph is about, and then keep going. Again, I know for those of you in Spell House especially, this is a really big review, but some of us are still struggling with it, so I want us to go over it one last day. So tomorrow, if I see that when you take your MLQ and you're making amazing central idea annotations every paragraph or every few paragraphs, and I catch you doing that, it will be a +5 for scholarship on your paycheck, and it really will help your grades. This is a college level strategy to use when you're reading and answering questions. So let's see how well you guys really understand objective summary. That does not belong in an objective summary because Brian is being very brave and persevering through his struggles is an opinion. That's you taking a look at Brian being brave and saying, wow, he's brave, he's persevering. That's not a fact that we learn about in the text. That's an inference that we make. So while typically your opinion does matter, of course, again, objective summaries are the only time in ELA where they don't. You are also going to be asked some questions tomorrow about character change, sort of analyzing characters. That's okay. That's when you take a look and say, okay, is this character being brave or strong? What is my character like and how do I know? But in objective summary, do not put in opinion. So this does not belong in an objective summary because as Brian tried to land the plane, he was confused by the dashboard. One lighted display in the top center said the number 342, and another next to it said 22. Brian did not know what these controls meant. That's a small detail. So when we're talking objective summaries of Hatchet, all that we've read so far, I mean, him trying to land the plane is important, but this is a pretty specific detail. One lighted display in the top center said this number, the one next to it said this number. That's really not something you should put in an objective summary. It's too small. It's not a big main event in the story. This last one does belong in an objective summary. The pilot died, so Brian landed the plane on his own in the lake. That is a really big, important event. You'll notice that this one doesn't go into too much detail. It doesn't talk really specifically about what happened. It would also be okay if this said the pilot died from a heart attack or, something like that. But see how it's not too specific? It really just hits on the big, important stuff. That is what belongs in an objective summary. So this does not belong in an objective summary because Paulson uses a lot of inner dialogue and repetition to teach us about Brian. That is an opinion. That's our analysis of the story. We talked about this stuff when we were talking about analyzing our character Brian, but objective summaries should only be about facts and events that are happening in the story.